I don't have my medical records in front of me, so I will have to wing the dates and spellings. I went to the hospital to have a scheduled cesarean section on January 21, 2002. I had complications with bleeding. After they pulled my daughter out, I passed many clots and was told it was normal. I had a son who was almost 17, and I knew it wasn't the day I was to go home. They had to open my cesarean section halfway due to hematomas forming under the staples. This was horrible. I was also having trouble breathing due to having so much fluid, and they seemed unconcerned with it. The second day home I became very nauseated and dizzy. I tried to lie down and couldn't breathe well. When I did, I called the doctor, and they said I had the stomach flu and called me in a nausea medication. After taking the medicine, I started to fall asleep, and my son came in and woke me. He said my lips were turning blue, so I sat up. I couldn't get my breath, so off to the hospital we went. I could hardly walk, and the nurse came out to get me in a wheelchair. My breathing was even shallower and my blood pressure was going off the scale. My sugar then dropped, and I became in a dream state of mind. They rushed me over to the other hospital where they had a birth center, and for the next 8 hours they came up with all kinds of crap. They said I had a blood clot in my lung, I had a heart problem, so on and so on. At this point I could barely get my breath, and they had me on oxygen. I felt like I was going to die. A nurse walked up and poked my leg and then said, "My God, you are full of fluid." I was in the intensive care unit at this time, and they finally did an ultrasound and could plainly see that I was drowning. My lungs were filling in, my heart, kidneys, stomach and liver were being crushed. I did suffer some damage to my lungs. They put me on medication, and I went from weighing 160 to 120 pounds in a matter of 2 days. Finally I got better, and they let me go home. After about a week I was still having problems with the open incision and clotting. I'm pretty sure it was about 3 weeks later when the next episode happened. I still was very sick, but thought it was normal. I got up one morning and fed my daughter. For some reason I held her extra long that morning. While sitting in the rocker in her room, I got up, and it was exactly 8 o'clock when I laid her back in her crib. As soon as I took my hand off her, I felt a rush of heat run down my leg. I looked and saw blood running, as if someone had turned on a faucet. I ran downstairs to our bathroom in disbelief to clean up, and looked behind me to see a line of red following me. I ran back upstairs to tell my husband I was in trouble, and he didn't believe me until he looked and saw the floor getting red. To make a long story short, I lay in the bed on my side while he frantically tried to get an ambulance. We lived 45 minutes from a hospital, and it took the ambulance 40 minutes to get there. I was in and out of shock and begging God not to take me because my daughter needed a mother. I could feel the bed getting cold and wet from the blood. My ex-husband ran in and out of the room checking on me and telling me, "You're not going to die," knowing all along how bad it was because he was an emergency medical technician. I remember feeling as if there were a struggle in my soul not to shut my eyes. I had made my peace by now. The ride in the ambulance still rings in my head. They couldn't get a knife in me because there were no veins. I was in and out of shock, and when they got me to the hospital they put me in labor to try to stop the bleeding. This was insane. They gave me nothing for pain and left me alone, bleeding, crying and dying. Finally the doctor came and checked me and said they would have to do a DNC, dilation and curettage procedure, and I would be fine. Somehow I wanted to believe it, but I didn't. They sent me up to prep, and my pastor came in. I remember trying to recite the 23rd Psalm, but couldn't think straight enough. He stood there and cried. Then I felt cold and was alone behind a curtain drawn around me. It was as if I was seeing in a tunnel vision, and everything began to have a glowing effect. This is when I saw what I like to call an angel. I don't know if it was the shock or the fear, but she was there. It was a little old lady with white hair and the bluest eyes I had ever seen. She asked me if I was scared, and I said yes. I think I mouthed it in my head instead of saying it. She reached her hand over mine, and it was so warm at that moment I felt a peace come over me, and she said, "It's going to be all right, honey." Then she was gone, and they came in to take me to surgery. I talked to them a little while they were cleaning me up and asked that they please not catheterize me again until I was out, as it had been done twice before, and they said they would wait. Then a woman came over and said that it was time for me to sleep and put a needle in my IV tube. She asks me to tell her when I started to feel like I was going out. I tried to keep my eyes open and was praying. I saw the blackness coming in like a circle closing around my eyes, and then it was black. Then it happened. I thought I was waking, but I wasn't. I felt alone, deaf and blind. It felt as if I were in a black void. It felt like wind blowing my hair, and my thoughts were running so fast I couldn't make sense of them. My emotion was a fear, and it was like I didn't know what was real and what wasn't. There was no time, and I felt like I was drifting in this black silent void in slow motion. I remember feeling like something pulled me backward, almost like I was pushed from the front by a puff of air. That's all. I woke up in the intensive care unit again, and I knew it wasn't good. They said I stopped breathing twice, and my heart stopped once for only a brief minute. They had to bag me and put a knife in my neck that led to my heart. It had 3 needles, one for blood, one for fluid, and one for medication. I don't remember how much blood they had to give me, but I was told I was running on empty. They had to do a partial hysterectomy because I would have died otherwise. When I woke up, I had so many tubes in me and machines on me I could barely move. I became very ill after the surgery, running a temperature of 103 for 3 days. I could go on and on about the rest of my health and mental health issues after the surgery, but I don't think you need that. My life has changed so much since then. My faith, what I believe, and what matters. I do struggle with a lot of confusion because sometimes I don't know what I believe. Am I afraid to die? No, there are a lot worse things in this life than dying, and I have been there. Do I want to die? Not today. I wish I could understand what happened to me and why. I've heard of others seeing lights, family, love, and happiness. It scares me to think I was at the strongest in my faith, doing everything right, and wonder, was I on my way to hell anyway? That's my story. I hope it's not too graphic and is what you needed.